Well, after a few missteps and a few transitional episodes, Shadowhunters finally gets back on track with one of its most shocking twists yet. Hey guys, remember Shadowhunters Season 2, Episode 7, How Art Thou Fallen? I was definitely really looking forward to this episode, but as you guys know, my interest for the season Shadowhunters has actually been waning by the episode, mainly because while I do think that the first, 4 episodes were great, I think since then they haven't had much of a thorough line. To me, at least, it seemed like they just kind of went to the second half of the season, until I watched this episode that showed me that's not the case at all. This episode was incredible. I really did love this episode. I thought this was very well done. It perfectly got us back into the main storyline, which makes sense because there's only 3 episodes left for this half of the season. I know I can't believe it either. They're moving so quickly. But I really did love this episode. I thought it was also a good Valentine's Day episode. There's a lot of good romantic stuff going on here. A lot of very interesting arcs going on. We found out a lot more about Cleophus as well as the return of Valentine, which I was very happy to see. But let's just get this episode because I definitely do want to talk about it. So we start off we see Cleophus, Luke's sister and a member of the Iron Sisters. She, of course, killed a fellow Iron Sister and left the Citadel, and she goes to Valentine and tells him about her ability to create a new rune, and apparently back in the day we found she was a member of the Circle and one of his followers, and now she needs to prove herself worthy of following him again. So we immediately see she's not really one we can trust, obviously. She's working with Valentine, which obviously makes her a threat. So in order to draw Clary back to Valentine, Cleophas cuts herself badly. She then goes to the Jade Wolf to seek help from Luke and his pack, and she claims that Valentine actually attacked the Citadel, killed the Iron Sister, and Magdalena and took her, but we know she's lying. She's really just doing this to further initiate herself back into the Circle, and privately, Luke and Clary talk about what to do with her. Luke, having told Clary about Cleo's connection to the Circle, still doesn't believe his sister's story. There's a lot of things that she said that he just can't trust, and there's a lot of unfinished business between these two, so he wants to turn her over to the Clave. Clary, who's told Luke about her new ability as well, isn't so sure that's a good idea. She really feels that Cleophas could actually be of service to them and that she really could be a good ally for them. And she seems to think that they at least need to give her another chance. And yeah, I kind of am on board with Clary there. But at the same time, we see that she's really doing this all for her own benefit. So she's definitely quite shady in that regard. And while they're talking with her, Cleophas claims that she can take them to Valentine, but calls Clary Clarissa in the process, and Clary tells Luke that only Valentine calls her that, so she must know that Cleo is in with Valentine. So that obviously makes Clary very suspicious, but that doesn't stop her from shocking Luke with his taser, running off with Cleophas before Luke and the pack can turn Cleophas over. Apparently, Clary thinks that they can use Cleophas to go undercover and get the Soul Sword, and she's willing to go against Luke to follow her own plan, and obviously, we know that's not gonna go over well. Luke is definitely gonna come back after her, and I like Luke's protection in this episode. Luke really does not let his guard down here, and you can understand why. This is not a good situation at all. What Clary's got herself in, she was very, very dangerous, and she's got to do what she can to protect herself. So, I really did like the way that's done. I thought that was a very well done way to start the episode, and it definitely does take us into a new direction with the Iron Sisters than we thought, and I like the direction that took us into. So before we get back into what's going on with Clary, let's talk about the other big stuff going on in this episode, which had to do with Magnus and Alec, because this was a pretty big episode for Magnus and Alec, and I really did like where they took them in this episode. It showed Alec's, commitment to Magnus, how he actually does want to pursue this relationship, and I really did like seeing that, because he spends most of this episode either with Magnus or stressing over his relationship with Magnus, and they get back from a whirlwind trip from what seems to be exotic locals like Tokyo and Prague, and settle in for a little alone time together in Magnus' apartment, only to be interrupted by Jace and her girl he's brought home giggling in the bedroom. There's a lot of weird stuff going on with Jace in this episode. We'll get into that when we get to my flaws with the episode, but Magnus turns on some music to drown it out, and before they can get too hot and heavy, Alec is called away by the Institute. So the timing is just not right. You can tell that Magnus wants to go further. He wants to take that next step, because he really does want to be with Alec, and this isn't something where he just, wants to hang and bang you. He genuinely wants to have this relation with him. So Magnus goes to the same bar that Maia's working at and chats with her a little bit about a gift he has on hand that Alec got him. She asks if it's from something special, and he says he thinks so. It's a very cute moment. You can tell that he definitely does want to, pursue this relation with Alec, and he's then distracted by Izzy showing up, and the relationship gossip is halted. It's not long before Magnus and Alec are together, having a little relationship chat of their own, and at the Institute later, Alec, who told Izzy he wanted to talk, approaches her, starts asking about how and a very interesting question, basically about how you know you're ready when you want to have sex with someone, because as we know, Alec has never had sex before. This is going to be the first person he's ever had sex with, and Izzy is clearly delighted that Alec is going to take that step, and I love the scene where she realized that he's never had sex, that she really didn't, that he made up, I guess, this girl, and she realized that she wasn't really real. So she gently reassures him that if he cares about Magnus and Magnus cares about him, it's okay, and he shouldn't overthink it. He'll just know. That's how it is, because, when you want to have sex, you just know. There really isn't any sort of timing. You just kind of know when you want to. So the next time Alec goes to Magnus's apartment, when he finds Jace isn't there, he starts kissing the Warlock, tells him he's ready to take that step with him. Magnus reveals he's worried about rushing things and losing Alec, but Alec basically tells him that's silly, and it's a nice moment. I like seeing Magnus very worried about taking this step, because before, he knows what's happened with other with other people he's had sex with, that he's had sex with them and then it's just kind of over, and he's worried the same thing is going to happen with Alec. And it really provides that vulnerability for Magnus that we've been seeing. Like I said, Magnus throughout a lot of last season, while he was definitely cool to see Magnus and Alec together, was a bit of a cartoon. He was just a very, very stilted and not much of a character, and they're doing a very good job of giving him a lot more to do. We know that he's had a lot of past relationships that haven't gone great, so he's very worried that this is going to be the exact same way, and basically, he tells me he shouldn't overthink the whole thing. So the next time Alec goes to Magnus' apartment, when he finds Jace isn't there, we see Alec basically tells him that's silly. They start making out, moving into another room, and we see that they did in fact have sex. It was a really nice moment for Alec. I like the way that was done. I really do love where they're going in this relationship overall, and it really does give some very well development to both Alec and Magnus that we really do need. I really do like the way they're expanding their overall relationship. They're finding out, what they can do with it. I like the direction they're going with that, and I can't wait to see where else they go throughout the season. So now let's get into what's going on with Simon in this episode, because I really did love Simon's arc in this episode, minus one thing that I thought was quite annoying. Clary finds Simon getting ready for a date with Maia, because obviously Clary didn't work out. He wants to be with Maia. He thinks that these two genuinely have a connection, and she's clearly impressed when she sees him shirtless. He can tell something is up with her, offers to drop his plans to help her, but she tells him to go on and enjoy himself, and he then goes to meet up with Maia at the bar she works at, getting there 2 hours early, which she clearly finds, she actually finds adorable. But Simon's approached by both Izzy and Jace while he waits for her shift to be over, but it's Jace who sticks around to give him some pointers about dating. Now, I found this to be less of Jace giving him friendly advice and more of Jace just being a dick. After having 3 episodes with Jace, with Valentine, him coming back to Alec, and then the whole thing with, Jocelyn, then him trying to find his place, now they resorted to Jace being a dick. And again, they have no idea what to do with this character, and it's really pissing me off. I like where they've gone with Jace this season, and now they're turning him into a dick. I don't know why they're going this direction with him, but he asks if Simon approaches a girl. His technique is a little awkward, so Jace offers to show him how it's done. He basically tells him to stop being himself entirely, because Simon talks about movies, and he's very nerdy in that regard, and he approaches a girl while disguised as Simon to show him how his methods work, and he gets the girl's number, which makes Simon think that Jace's is the way to go. So that was definitely interesting to see, that he basically decides that he's going to do that. But later, Maia gets off to work, and she goes to sit with Simon, and he tries to follow Jace's advice, only for it to backfire very badly. Like, it really does not go well for Simon at all. He really ends up messing it up, and he basically acts totally uninterested in Maia, like he doesn't care about her, and tells him to call her when the Simon she actually agreed to go out with shows up before storming out. And I like that. I like that he realized, he needs to be himself. And he goes to see Maia again, gifting her with a collection of Blade Runner movies, as their date would involve seeing some of them. And she's very touched by this. She feels this is really the Simon that she loved. She doesn't know why he didn't just say this in the first place. And he tries to explain what he was doing. She sees right through it and tells him that she was able to hear his conversation with Jace and knows that Simon is in love with Clary. She knows it. She knows that even though he was with her, it was just because he couldn't be with Clary. This was just a replacement for him. And she encourages him to tell Clary how he feels. They seem to end on good terms. And I hope it's not the end. I really hope it's not the end. I like that Maia is giving Jace this advice. Not Jace. I like that she's giving Simon this advice. I like that she genuinely cares about Simon. I like the way she really does want to help him. So I do hope we see more of this. I've always liked Simon and Clary together. I want to see them get together this season. I think we're definitely heading in that direction. Clary clearly does have feelings for Simon. I don't think she needs Simon right now. There's way too much other stuff going on with her, which we'll get into in a second. But I really did like seeing what was going on with Simon this episode. I'm interested in seeing where Simon and Maia are going to go. And I really hope they do continue this friendship. Even though they didn't work as a relationship, it doesn't mean they can't work as friends. And I do hope we continue to see that throughout the series and possibly, throughout the season. I really do hope we get to see that. So now let's get into what Izzy was going through in this episode, because Izzy in this episode, she definitely does have an arc. Most of it is her on the hunt for more Yin Fen. As we know, she is very addicted at this point, and at the Institute, she reveals to Clary that she knows about her rune ability and is upset with her for shutting her out. And when Clary tries to explain it, Izzy's not interested. She leaves to go find more Yin Fen, presumably in Aldertree's office, because Aldertree, as we know, is the one who's getting her addicted, and she's made to find there's nothing there, and she has to find another way to get her fix. And she next goes to the bar where Magnus is at when he tries to hit up a downworld drug dealer to get more Yin Fen. Magnus approaches them, reminds the other guy he's banned from North America indefinitely. He stalks away. Magnus then confronts Izzy. She makes up a convincing lie about Aldertree seeing her on a mission to break up with the Yin Fen trade, which Magnus doesn't believe until she drops Aldertree's name. Tells him, that Aldertree's involved. He directs her to the Night Children, which are vampires, and warns her to be careful. But Izzy is clearly too obsessed with getting the drug to care about that. She doesn't care that these are children, that, the Night Children are very dangerous, and she has a quick conversation with Simon at the bar just after he arrives, and she alludes to him biting her in order to cure his anxiety, and of course it's really she can get vampire venom directly into her system, and when he asks if she's serious, she laughs it off as a joke, and she leaves to go search for Night Children using technology at the Institute, and it's clear she'll have nothing to get what she needs. So clearly she is very addicted to the Yin Fen. She eventually goes to an alley alone, approached by a vampire. It's soon joined by several others, but Izzy holds off an altercation, telling them she's there because she needs something, and obviously we know it's the Yin Fen. Who knows what's going to happen here, but Izzy is honestly an idiot in this episode. I really thought this was dumb what Izzy was doing. I get that she's very addicted, and I get that Aldertree clearly is trying to get her on his side, but he really is starting to break her, and this really is starting to get to her in a pretty major way, and he probably should be very concerned about it, because this could really end up bad for Izzy, and I don't know where this is going to go, but this is the one thing I'm very skeptical on. I don't really know where they're headed with this. I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen. I just don't really know if I'm liking the direction this is going. We'll have to see. So now let's get back into Clary, because holy shit does a lot of stuff happen here, because throughout the episode, Clary keeps hearing this horrible, mournful wailing that no one else is able to hear, and she's running off with Cleophus. She hears it again, and attacks the former Iron Sister, demanding to know what she or Valentine are doing to her. She feels this definitely is Valentine's doing. There's no possible, other possible way. But Cleo has her activate her hearing rune. She can hear what Clary is, and she's stunned when she's able to listen in. We find out that it's not a Shadowhunter or Valentine. It's actually an angel crying out in pain. She says she believes that Valentine is one captive and is torturing it, and we do see a few brief shots of Valentine imprisoning and dragging an older-looking figure, and learn its name, which is Ethereal, something like that, and that scene with Valentine, again, genuinely threatening. The actor is doing a pretty good job at actually creeping us out, and this is enough to turn Cleo from Valentine's mission. She explains to Clary that hurting an angel goes against everything they believe as Shadowhunters, but because an angel is supposed to be known as pure, and an angel is the symbol of their purity, which we know that Cleo is very, very intent on, keeping and making sure that everyone has that purity in them. She's obsessed with it. But Clary tells Cleo she knew all along that she was working with Valentine. She thinks that Cleo is a traitor for following him in the first place. Cleophus makes a deal. She'll go with Clary to where Valentine is, and then they'll save the angel together, and afterwards she'll turn herself in, which sounds like a pretty sweet deal, and I think it's something that Clary should have done, but Clary's still very unsure. Cleo lays out the severity of the situation. A storm is coming. Valentine is both an angel and the soul sword. All he needs is a bolt of lightning, and all hell will break loose, and obviously this is not going to end well at all. So Luke, who called on Jace to help after Clary uses taser on him, finds Cleo and Clary. He and Jace go with them to wherever Valentine is. Cleophus approaches Valentine alone, confirms that Clary's gifted, but But just then, Luke comes out of the shadows, gun drawn, a standoff ensues where Cleo and Valentine struggle. He eventually gets a knife to her neck, forcing Luke to decide whether he wants to shoot at Valentine while the Shadowhunter has his sister, which is a very hard thing for Luke to do, obviously, because on one end, Luke does want to try to save Valentine, but on the other hand, want to save Cleo. At the same time, he doesn't really trust Cleo right now, so you can really see that Luke's conflicted here. Valentine then taunts Luke with a reminder that they were parabatai and tells him that he feels that Luke betrayed him by stealing Jocelyn from him, and as we know, Valentine and Luke have a very similar bond to that of Jace and Alec, and we'll get more into that in a second, but he's able to drag Cleo away. Luke shoots, but he misses as he waited way too long, and meanwhile, Clary and Jace make their way up to the roof of the same building. They find a group of Valentine's minions guarding the chained up ethereal. They both fight, eventually kill all of them, and then work to free the angel. The angel screams again, but apparently Claire is able to understand something in the cries because she activates something with her rune, Finder Thing, and the chain glow hot before Ethereal is able to break them. He then spreads his wings before taking both Clary and Jace's hands, showing them some sort of strange vision before he departs into the skies. We don't know what exactly that was that he showed them, but that is the way this episode ends. Really great stuff overall. Let's get into this episode and where I think we're going to go from here. So, overall, guys, like I said, this really, I think, was the return from the show. After so many episodes of, just building and building and building, this really was the episode that got things back on track. I thought they did a very good job with, focusing back on Valentine and what his overall mission was. Because, yeah, the Soul Sword is what he is in possession of. It is essentially his MacGuffin in this episode. Is it really going to do anything? We don't know. I don't think that Valentine's going to get a hold of Soul Sword, but it is, in fact, the MacGuffin of the season, and I'm interested in seeing where they're going to go with Valentine with that. But the bigger question is, what did Ethereal show Clary and Jace? Obviously, he showed some sort of strange vision that probably is very imperative for them to see, but what is that really about? What's going to happen with that? Is he going to, is that going to connect to taking down Valentine? Are they going to find a way to get the Soul Sword away? I mean, definitely something connected these two together. I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen with that exactly, what the strange vision was all about that Ethereal just saw. I'm interested in seeing really what's going to happen there, because I think that definitely is very interesting. I can't wait to see where that's going to go. But the one thing that definitely did, it sort of intrigued me a bit, was that of Valentine and Luke. As we know, Valentine said to Luke he is his parabatai. Now, who else is parabatai in the show? Alec and Jace, and I don't know if they're alluding to something happening between Alec and Jace, but it very much seems like that's what's going to happen. Just like they've alluded very well to Simon eventually doing something to his mother, I think something is going to happen between Alec and Jace. It very much seems like that's happened. They've referenced the parabatai so much throughout the show. Something is going to happen there. Those two are going to get into some sort of an altercation. There's going to be some sort of a scuffle, and I think it's going to be involving what's going on with Jace. We'll get into that a little bit later. But I do like the way that Clary is starting to explore her powers more. She now has this power to be able to get people to hear what she's hearing, which I don't know how exactly she got it. They didn't really explain how she was able to get it. I guess it was just from her purity or something like that. But she was able to get it, and it was cool to see her have this power. I like seeing Clary have something a little extra in this episode that was really cool to see. And the tension between Luke and Cleo, you could really understand this episode. They did a very good job of heightening the tension between them, and I like where that went overall. I thought that was definitely interesting as to where that's going to go. Cleophus is still out there, and I don't know if we can fully trust her, but where that's really going to go, we'll have to see. And her connection to Ethereal, something I'm definitely very interested in, is what's going to happen there, as well as the secret of her, killing her sister. That's going to come out eventually. Her killing the Iron Sister, someone's going to find out about that. It's going to come back to bite her in the ass, and it's not going to end well for anyone, so we'll have to see what happens there. As far as Simon goes, I really like seeing Simon and Maia together, but I want them to be friends, really. I get that Simon and Maia, they are not going to work as a couple. That doesn't mean they can't work as friends. I think that these two should definitely be friends. I think it's exactly the kind of friend that Simon needs right now. Maia is someone who can give him very good relationship advice. Simon can give her good quotes on movies. Those two can work hand in hand together, and I really do want to see them get together by the end of the season. I think it is exactly what those two need, and I can't wait to see where they end up going with Simon and Maia. I hope that those two do stay friends. And Alec and Magnus, I really did like their plot in this episode. Thought their stuff was very well done. The only complaint in this episode, once again, Izzy in this episode, I don't know where they're going with this Yin Fen. what's going to happen there. Obviously, she's going to continue to be abducted by it, but where they're going with the vampires, I don't know if she's going to start to fight the vampires for the Yin Fen, but clearly she's addicted, and I don't know where they're going with that. I like that Izzy is a plot. It's just not the desired plot I think she should have. I think she should have something much more interesting with Clary. She even talks to Clary about how she, was her, helped her through all this and things like that. I just want to see less of the Yin Fen and more of her bond with Clary. I don't want to see her with the Yin Fen. It's kind of dumb, and it very much reminds me again of Laurel and Arrow Season 2, and I really like that arc, and I don't think it's better here. But the biggest problem in this episode by far is Jace. Once again, Jace had the most interesting arc of the first 3 episodes of the season with that of Valentine and Jace. And Valentine was back. Why didn't he come back for Jace? I don't understand it. Why did he just let Jace go? Why didn't he try to get Jace back? That's what I would have done. I would have done this in pursuit of Jace. I thought that's what we were going to get to, that he was going to come back for Jace, and Jace was going to be the one to come back to him. But no, now it seems like Jace and Clary are going to work together, which I'm fine with. But having Jace be a douchebag in this episode felt so out of character. He's sleeping with women. He's treating everyone like absolute shit. I mean, I have no idea where Jace is really headed. I think he's conflicted. I understand that, but I don't really think they know what to do with this character. It really is pissing me off because they had the most interesting stuff with him, and now it seems like they just don't know what to do with him, so we'll have to see what ends up happening there. But overall, guys, it was definitely a much bigger improvement over the past 3 episodes. I thought the ending alone was enough to get me hooked on the last 3 episodes of this first half of the season. I don't know where we're headed, but it's still very intriguing, and that alone definitely makes me want to see what ends up happening. And I am going to give Shadowhunters Season 2, Episode 7, How Art Thou Fallen, a 4.5 out of 5 or an A-. So for guys, Maria Shadowhunters, let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Loved your thoughts on it. Where do you think the rest of the season is going to go? Well, at least this half of the season. And I will see you guys at my next video, which will be for the series premiere of Humans. I know you guys have very much been looking forward to that, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.